it is only because people disobey the protocols and the rules that foot-and-mouth disease spreads, as we saw in the Eastern Cape, where people adhere to the rules, where there's a high degree of cooperation between government and organized agriculture and the like, that we have a huge success in beating. It's when people continue to operate outside of the rules and outside of the regulations that we end up with those particular issues. And so my message is to all of those, and they are not alone. There are other organizations who represent farmers who are always very quick to point a finger to government. But you've got to ask yourself, what measures are you taking within your own organization to educate and ensure adherence to the regulations? Because ultimately, when you have a few players who don't play by the rules, it causes significant economic damage and harm to those others who do play by the rules, and puts the whole value chain at risk. And a value chain is probably the best way to describe it, because just like a chain, if you have one break in the chain, it will pull the whole thing apart. And that's why each link in the chain needs to be playing their particular part and role in ensuring that we get on top of the virus. I think it's also very clear from the Bosborough that we have a different approach to dealing with foot-and-mouth disease now, and we are going to move determinedly to a situation where we get FMD not only under control, but to a point where we will begin to be able to open up export markets particularly, and incentivize the value chain even further going forward. The ARC has been in the process of developing the vaccine for a number of years. They believe that in the first quarter of next year we can start production of that vaccine. And obviously Mr. Serage and Dr. Mogajani and Dr. Modasani and others are monitoring that very, very closely. And we're committed to providing the resources that are going to be necessary in order for us to achieve that. Obviously, with a constrained economic environment, we put a pitch in every year to Treasury in order to get the money that we need to build facilities, etc. I think given the huge economic potential that this opens up, particularly for revenue, I think that it is something that Treasury is going to have to consider giving serious attention to in the coming budget in order to ensure that we can make sure these facilities are there. We also see huge opportunity for us to become the vaccine supplier of choice on the African continent if we're able to get the vaccines which cover SAT1, 2 and 3 available, product produced and out for market. But of course, our primary focus will be on the ability to be able to vaccinate domestically. Alani, managing communal herds is obviously an incredibly difficult process. As we've seen in some challenging situations in the Northwest and others, we are vaccinating communal herds, and vaccines have been provided to try and make sure that we can conserve that. But obviously this remains something that's going to require a much higher degree of consultation and cooperation, and again bringing on board local authorities, bringing on board traditional leaders, and bringing on board government departments to make sure that facilities that are provided to ensure that there's proper fencing and movement control of those animals. But that ultimately we need a track and trace system in the country that would cover all animals. And I know that RMIS have been working incredibly hard on that system, and I don't know if Dewald, you want to come in and talk about that briefly around how that system would work, but I know that it is also intended to cover communal herds as well.
Thank you, Minister. Yes, we are going very strong with regards to traceability and launching a traceability platform by latest the 3rd of November, not the 1st because that's a Saturday. So we said on Monday the 3rd we'll be launching the platform. It is actually going very well, and specifically with regards to the message on communal cattle or small scale farmers, we've included them into that system whereby they can register and get a production unit number, and we understand where they come from. So a lot of the focus that we're currently developing is specifically on those small scale farmers and including them into our system. So yes, thank you, Minister, it's going actually very well.
You want to add anything? Yes, thank you, Minister. I think what the point we want to make is that going forward, it's going to be impossible for anyone to trade in livestock if it's not registered. So as soon as we start rolling out the what we call LEADS, Livestock Identification and Traceability System, anyone who does not have their animals registered, they may not, because they may not be able to trade in them, because one will not allow them to be admitted in an auction. And so members, especially the communal space, are really encouraged to make sure that they have their animals registered. So in future, anyone whose animal is not registered may not be able to trade in it.